Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, everyone. Please join us for our Board of Commissioners meeting, the last one, March 30th, 2022. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll go to citizen input, and I will go through, I have several that have sent in letters, and I will acknowledge them at this moment. We have 13 emails protecting Worrell Park, which is right out the window. We have one email in opposition to ADUs for the county. We have one email in support of the Simpson property. We have one email regarding the need for mentally ill help. So that email, one of those, and we have one email in opposition to Thornburg. So thank you to those citizens. We do read those. They do come into us and go into the permanent record also. The first person on...
Chair Dare, I'd like just to comment. So for Worrell Park out here, we are getting a lot of input on that, and I want to thank the community for getting engaged. I do still support taking this farther, looking at an architectural review, the vision of what we're planning there, opening the view up between here and Wall Street, adding some more parking spaces, which I do understand does make it a little bit smaller. So I support taking it to the next level to have a beautiful architectural rendering and sharing that with the community for input. That's just letting you know that's what I'm thinking at this time.
And I got a fabulous letter from Mike Meyer about how we could actually do something completely different. And Mike had been talking about that idea, and I thought it was a good one, so I gave everyone a copy of that idea.
I got it yesterday.
Yes. So thank you, Mike. Mike was our past administrator and then served on the Budget Committee until his very, very most recent retirement. But he served on the Budget Committee from 2004, so he's a very frugal prior administrator and watches your dollars carefully. Affordable.
And we have considered every proposal that has come to us to address the need for parking for the expanded courthouse as those have come forward, and we'll continue to do so. But as of this time, it really does not seem like there is a viable alternative that would not cost us millions of dollars more. And the benefit of the Worrell Park proposal is that it provides both some additional parking and a new city park for the use of the community.
Thank you. Tommy Waldron, would you care to speak? And you do have 3 minutes if you want to identify yourself. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tommy Waldron with Foundation for Affordable Housing. We've been headquartered in Bend for the last 5 years downtown. We have approximately 25,000 units in ownership and partnership with our developer partners. And I wanted to speak with you today about the Simpson Avenue project and affordable housing in general. The importance of affordable housing, it can easily be seen at the federal, state, and local government levels as a bipartisan support on both sides of the aisle. The importance of the Simpson Avenue project helps with the supply in Bend. It's reasonable to think that the Hickson could be at $4,000 a unit by the time this project's built. The people this project will house is going to be nurses, EMTs, police, fire, anyone from a yoga teacher to a local educator at the universities to restaurant workers. These are critical people which help to diversify the fabric of our community and also help to really support the local community. This is a really unique opportunity to build a large number of affordable units. I want to touch on the least part, my least favorite part of this project, which is the trees. I was living in Shevlin Park when a builder clear-cut 8 acres of forest to put 50 homes up. It was devastating. It was the playground for all the kids in the neighborhood. And this property is really not much different. And that's an unfortunate part of development. And we have an RFP. We have provided a proposal with Pacific Group and TWG to develop 200 units here. So this is 7 acres. We're getting 200 homes instead of 50 homes. And for every tree we take out, we'll replant double the amount of trees, at least. I'd like to try and get that number up to 10 times if I can. And we'll work with the community to protect the important trees that are on the property. I think just lastly, I think the commissioners and everybody in the community needs to understand the mandate that the state has given us to grow vertical and dense with the UGB the way it is. This isn't typical in other states, but it's a clear direction that the state wants density. And this project going in next to OSU, the future OSU campus, is just a phenomenal opportunity to bring affordable housing. And I think it should be as dense as possible so that we can still achieve a nice aesthetic for the community. The proposal that we submitted, 200 units, is the sweet spot for getting 4% tax credit financing. Anything under that, really anything under 170 units really risks whether or not it's going to be awarded tax credit funding right now in Bend. I studied this when I was at Georgetown, and my capstone was actually on doing projects in Bend. If you look at the 4% projects getting done, they're all in this 200 unit range. It's because that's the way the funding mechanisms work and will support. So thanks for hearing me out on this, and I hope that you strongly consider our proposal. And either way, moving forward with affordable housing there, I think is critical for the city and the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Tommy.
One question. You mentioned a foundation for affordable housing. Can you tell me about the organization real quick?
Yeah, sure. Foundation was started by Tom and Deb Willard back in the 1980s when LIHTC funding, when the program was actually created. They were founded, they actually were building churches prior to this, and then they moved to Southern California and began doing LIHTC development in partnership with developers. We are a 501c3, so we're the nonprofit partner. Over the course of 30 years, they've just been phenomenal partners to work with, and they've grown up to 25,000 units in 17 states right now, mostly being in California. And I encourage you to check out the website. It's ffah.org to see a video of the Willards. They're officed here with me in Bend. We love Bend. Myself, and I've developed a great relationship with the Pacific Crest guys, John and Rob, who you guys all know. They live very close to where this project's going to happen. The density this project actually could support is 300 units, but really with the guidance of Pacific Crest, it was narrowed down to 200 units so that we could get a 3-story building and make it very aesthetically pleasing. They felt trying to put 300 units here would be too large of buildings and it wouldn't fit within the community. I mean, you guys know they have 3 amazing properties that are all affordable. This property, though, would not be as deeply restricted as their other 3 properties. So this would be more of the workforce housing type of resident.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Melanie Keebler, thank you so much for joining us. Councilor Keebler.
Good morning. Melanie Keebler, Bend resident, also on the Bend City Council. And I'm here for the same topic as Tommy. Wanted to thank the board for moving forward and putting that piece of property out for affordable housing. It's so important that we maximize our opportunities within our UGB to build those types of projects. And we've set some ambitious goals as a city, and so we're really thankful to hear that you all moved forward on that and are looking to put that out and get a good project there. I really loved everything Tommy said about the details of this type of project. You heard a little bit about how complicated the financing can be for these types of projects where we're actually subsidizing housing so that it can be rented for lower than market rates. It's really important that the project and the partners get as much support from as many partners in government as they can. And so to that end, I would encourage you to think about how you are using this land and whether or not you can discount or even donate the land in order to help with that funding stack that these partners are going to have to figure out in order to make the housing work. I also appreciated Tommy's comments about the trees and the idea that if you compare it to other projects, you know, if we're going to have to remove some trees, let's get the most bang for our buck and get as many homes as we can on that piece of property versus clearing an 8-acre area and then putting 50 not affordable homes on it. So a lot to consider for you all moving forward, but just wanted to express my appreciation that this is a project that you're interested in and are moving forward with, and the city is happy to support however we can in making that happen.
Oh,
Thank you.
gosh, Melanie, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate that. Rondo.
Good morning. I sometimes forget when I come up here to introduce myself. I'm Rondo. I'm a 32-year resident of Bend and a veteran, U.S. Navy veteran. We talk a lot about serious things, and we often just, as a matter of business, just directly attack them. And that's sometimes the most honest way. But I have a question that asks a serious question, and I'd like you to consider answering them. I'd actually seriously like to hear a conversation about it. Who was more wrong, Chris or Will? Thank you.
Should we take the next half hour and discuss?
I think not.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Who was more wrong? Okay, that's a good one. Thank you, Rondo. Thank you for joining us. And last but not least, Judy Trego, welcome, TREGO. So thankful that you're here with us today.
Thank you, Chair Adair, Commissioner Chang, Commissioner DeBone. I wanted to come here this morning, acknowledge the board, and thank them for the selection process for the Deschutes County Budget Committee. I appreciated going through that process. It was lengthy. It was 3 different panels that did interviews with a whole bunch of applicants. And so I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate the selection. I'll appreciate and look forward to working with you. And that is really all I wanted to come and say was a huge thank you, because I know it's a lot of work for you to go through that process, and I appreciate it. And I also appreciate you selecting a community person, not necessarily finance, but someone who knows programs and things about affordable housing and, you know, childcare and small business. So I really appreciate all the time that you all spent going through this process, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much. Great to see you today.
Thank you,
Thank you
Judy.
for
You're
stepping
actually
up, Judy.
you're actually on the consent agenda, and thank you to you who has a one of your children is a veteran. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
That's very kind. Commissioner Chang, did you want to say something?
Nope.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we do have anyone else in the room or anyone on Zoom? Stephanie? No? Okay, we're good then? Okay, we do have our consent agenda, and I did want to pull item 3 and item 7, and perhaps we could talk about item 7 first. I don't know. Any other items you want to pull?
I don't think we necessarily need to pull it, but on item number 5, I did just want to say that I very much support providing land for Mountain Star to be able to set up a child care and relief nursery facility in Lapine to serve South County. I do wish that we could have explored more properties that the county owns and explored a possible donation of land. to accelerate the development of that facility. But this is, this is the parcel that has been negotiated and worked out, and so I'm supportive of moving forward with that.
Thank you. Commissioner DeBonne, did you want to say something?
Well, so I'll move consent agenda minus items 3 and 7, like you mentioned. Just kind of get into the business of it.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, and then I'll also make comments in support of Mountain Star Relief Nursery. It's really exciting. The organization has spread their wings from Bend to Redmond, now back to Lapine. So they'll have 3 locations. Pretty exciting to be able to offer those services in this time. It's a kind of a fair market sale, but that's good that they have the resources to be able to offer, trying to make the economy go around. So just, a little slight different view about the cost of the part. There's 2 parcels there also. So looking forward to hosting them in the community of Lapine.
And definitely the growing community of Lapine.
Yeah.
Truly, it is growing, and the houses are a bit more affordable in South County. Acknowledging that even Bob Shaw has moved to Lapine. So it's great. We hear the traffic report in the morning, how good the roads are. So that's wonderful. Any further discussion then? Commissioner Chang?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see. Who made the motion? Commissioner DeBonne?
I'll vote yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So item number 7 is actually thanking Mike Meyer, who we just mentioned, and Bill Anderson, who is moving to Crook County, so he can no longer serve in the position on the board, and acknowledging, thank you, Judy, for attending today, and Jim Pfister. So is there any other comments?
Yeah, just acknowledging. So we're saying goodbye to 2 of a 3-person public engagement in our budget committee, and we're welcoming 2. So thank you very much for joining us, Judy. The budget week, a couple days going through the budget from front to back, the proposed budget, it's serious business, but it's the most informative week ever. I remember the first time I sat down during the budget week, and man, I thought I had studied the county and understood it, but once you sit through a week of budgeting, you really get to know where the money's going, why we're doing it, some policy decisions, what's growing and what needs more resources. So very valuable, and thank you to the new members joining us. And the long history of Mike Meyer, very special community member that has been associated with the county since 1978 with Deschutes County.
And the amazing thing is that Mike Meyer used to pheasant hunt at my family ranch in Hebner, Oregon. We just kind of found that out one day, one week when we were sitting there together. So, truly, we'll be missing Mike and Bill, too, who's been a wonderful member of the community.
I would echo the thanks to our departing budget committee members, and the welcome to our new budget committee members, and also I'd also just like to say that there were a number of excellent candidates who put in applications for the budget committee, and I hope that there are ways that those people who were not selected can get involved in the county and help us do our work, continuous improvement, and constantly moving forward and doing a better job every day.
So could we have a motion then?
Go ahead.
I'll move approval of item number 7 on the agenda, consideration of board signature on letters of appointment to Judy Trago and Jim Pfister, and letters of thanks to Mike Meyer and Bill Anderson for service on the Deschutes County Budget Committee.
And I will second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. And
Thank you. It's official now.
thank you, Judy, for joining us today. That was very kind of you. Okay, item number 3, I just wanted to ask Cody if he's available.
Chris Doty should be available.
Oh, Chris, okay, good.
Perhaps Cody as well, but I have been coordinating with Chris. There he is. Or Cody.
Oh, good, Cody.
Morning.
Good morning, Cody. You knew I'd have to ask on item number 3, the compensation is $45,000, and it's actually 1/3 of an acre, and I just wondered if there were special reasons why the compensation seemed to be, to me, significant.
The offer amount, which this property owner in this case has accepted, was based on the fair market value that was determined by a certified land appraiser. If you might recall back in September when I met with the board and gave the overall summary for all the right-of-way for this project, our estimate at that time for the right-of-way for this property was $42,000. So the actual appraisal came in for the right-of-way dedication as well as a temporary construction easement at a little over $46,000. So, but if you're asking specific questions in terms of the appraiser's determination and report, I don't know if we necessarily would want to get into that in a public meeting. I'd defer to county council on that, but ultimately the short answer is that's how the property appraised.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make that into the record, because if it did appraise it that way, because when you calculate, it's 0.34% of an acre. So, it's significantly a very valuable piece of property that we are purchasing for the road. So, Dave, is there anything else? No.
No, if you wanted to get into the weeds, we'd need to convene an executive session.
No, I just wanted
to.
I just thought, when I did my calculation, I went, gosh, and last September was, 7 months ago or something? So, okay, thank you, Cody. Thank you for bringing that up. So can I have a motion?
Sure. So for item number 3, there's 3 documents associated with this. So the purchase agreement, document 2022-285, dedication deed 2022-286, and temporary construction easement 2022-287. That's a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second, and after we vote, I'd love to ask Cody one more question.
Okay. After we vote. Okay. Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
So Cody, I'm curious, among all of the easement and other purchases, land transactions that need to be completed around the Hunnell Road project, how many is 2? So we were looking at these 2 in comparison, like what percentage of the total do these 2 represent, and how do the other ones look?
Okay, so these are there are 12 total right-of-way files for this project. So this is the first 2 of 12. The offers for right-of-way were sent out in early March over the first couple of weeks of March. So these came in, just within about a week and a half, 2 weeks after the actual offers were sent out. I have 2 more that have come in since that I'll be putting on the consent agenda for the board's meeting for next week. My understanding is I think we're anticipating a couple more will be signing this week. We have a couple more who are, I think, prepared to present us with counter offers for negotiation. And then the remaining files are still considering. We're still waiting to hear back whether they're going to accept or have any kind of counter offer. So I anticipate probably in another couple weeks or so, I'll be coming back to the board in an executive session to talk about those files. But for the most part, yes, as far as we're concerned, everything's moving forward here. We have, property owners are either signing or seriously considering. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. We do now have a public hearing for a annexation, and we have our order.
Yes, Commissioners, you have before you for consideration Order 2022-017, which would approve an annexation into Rural Fire District Number 2. Mr. Stilson's filed a petition to annex the property into that district. The district has approved the petition. The assessor's office and the county clerk have certified the petition, and community development has reviewed it for consistency with the comprehensive plan. This would be the time to open a public hearing, receive any input or testimony if there is any, and then close the public hearing and take action on the order.
Okay, I'm opening the public hearing. Do we have anyone in the room that would like to testify on a annexation to Rural Fire District Number 2? Stephanie, do you see anyone on Zoom? No one? Therefore, I may close the public hearing. I will close the public hearing. Would you like to have any discussion over this issue?
Just acknowledging that, yes, pretty non-controversial, being able to add the next parcel into a rural fire protection district helps both parties, so it's a pretty positive situation.
Definitely. Commissioner Chang.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, please do.
I move approval of Order 2022-017, annexation to Rural Fire District Number 2 of the Stilson property.
And I will second it.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay. Anything else we need to do then, Dave? Are we good?
You've got it, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have item number 9.
Commissioner
Yes.
Adair?
Yes.
Before the board is order number 2022-020, appointing me as Deschutes County Treasurer as of April 2nd, so on Saturday this week, in light of Greg Munn, our CFO, Finance Director, Treasurer, resigning effective April 1st. It is my intent to delegate that authority to Wayne Lowry, our prior County Treasurer, Finance Director, and CFO. We have a contract, we have a personal services contract, and much thanks to Dave both for helping with that contract as well as with this order. We have that in place now, and it was effective yesterday. So beginning on April 2nd, I'll delegate that authority to Wayne. I'll coordinate with Dave on what that delegation authority looks like, what that formal process is. But in any event, I'm happy to answer any questions. The order is before you this morning for your consideration.
Well, we're very thankful that Wayne Lowry lives in Deschutes County, and it's really outstanding of him to come back and help us out at this time. So thank you, Wayne. We really appreciate it. He was, how many years was Wayne with the county?
About 5. Yeah.
5? I know. He was really, a great finance director. So thank you for coming back.
And maybe he can help us find another great new finance director.
Yes.
That's the plan.
Yes.
So I'll make that motion for board signature of order number 2022-020, appointing Nick Lilac Deschutes County Treasurer.
Second.
Any further discussion?
And then acknowledging, yeah, so Greg Munn really stepped in, has done a great job. We know where the money is. That's the most important thing, and it's been a non-controversial, non-exciting moment when we do a monthly financial report, which is what we always want. Having Wayne Lowry be able to come back and join us is going to be very valuable in this time of transition. And this is a function of, this isn't probably direct resignation reset that's going on around, but it's another one of those moves happen in our community, a career change which is affecting us, at this highest level.
Truly. Yes.
Hopefully before he departs, Greg will join us for some kind of public activity where we can just recognize the major system improvements he's made to that shop within the county, and also, I definitely want to say that he provides us with great insights and clarity when we're making when we need to make important decisions, and that has been greatly appreciated.
I'm actually kind of surprised he's not here this morning. I wonder.
You might be online.
Yes, Greg, where art thou? I know. I thought he was going to be in the room or something. So, anyway, he will truly be missed, and he has done some excellent updates. It's been really outstanding to have him for the service. He has made a difference here in Deschutes County. So, Commissioner DeBonne?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So, Nick, you've got another responsibility.
Well, thank you,
Temporarily.
Chair. Yes, temporarily. Thank you, Chair Adair. And I just want to recognize our finance team. Yesterday in an interview with the Bulletin, they asked if we anticipated any challenges, and I said no, both because Wayne is returning as well as, and this part didn't make the newspaper, but that's okay. But I just want to really recognize our really strong finance team. They're just outstanding. They're committed and will continue to provide great service to us.
I went through the office yesterday also and said hi to everybody, making sure, just showing support, knowing that this is that time of transition. As I say, we're going to be able to handle it, but thank you very much for everybody that's in the office also.
Truly, they are an outstanding group that are committed to the county and to our finances, keeping us and our excellent credit rating, which is so important. You know, they do a lot of things, and then I'm also thankful that Wayne will come back for our budget, because that will be a 4-day process before Memorial Day weekend. We moved it. It actually got to move up ahead of Memorial Day weekend, and I think it's a challenging time. You know, we're talking about spending taxpayer money, so. And I'm glad we're gonna keep with our 4 days. I think that's really. Deschutes County is rather unique. Even larger counties have a much shorter budget week, and I really appreciate the way we do it. I think it's worthwhile, and you know, you are welcome to attend or watch the meeting on Zoom. So I can remember my first week when I attended, my baby horse was born that morning at 6 a.m., and then I came in, and the whole day I thought it was a little girl, and when I got home I found it was a boy. So now I've had 7 boys in a row. It's a great place, and community involvement would be wonderful. I know some of our audit committee come in and take part in that, so that they are much more aware, don't you think, Dave Givens?
Can I just, before we close that item, can I just ask Nick if there are things that you think we can do to continue to show appreciation for the finance staff, but also, you know, provide any support that's needed during this kind of flux transition period to ensure that, you know, things go smoothly for them all?
Good question, Commissioner. Yesterday morning, our Deputy County Administrator, Whitney Hale, Human Resources Director Kathleen Hinman, and I met with 5 members of the leadership team to begin to explore exactly that. What can we do to support them? What leadership opportunities might they be willing to help out with in an interim period? So we're just in the process of collecting that information, and we'll meet with them again next here in short order, as well as with Wayne to determine what are the best ways to both recognize them as well as to support them during this transition.
Great, thank you.
Okay, it looks like we should be on item number 10. Dave Givens.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Givens, County Internal Auditor. So periodically I come before you to get a update on the county's external audit contract. Our last contract was for roughly 8 years. As is typical, we did an RFP process. We started that in January and solicited bids. We received 2 bids. The audit committee is responsible for that, for reviewing those bids. And we had a small panel of 6, including 2 from the finance department, Greg Munn and Janet Keene, our accounting manager, weigh in on that. And it was a majority position that we accept the contract proposal from Moss Adams out of Eugene. And total contract for the 5 years is close to $800,000. It is a slight increase from our prior auditors, and our prior auditor bid on it. It was a very close race between both of them. They were both very fine firms, and we had a good problem to solve in terms of picking one that we thought would be good for the next 5 years. So bring you that. Also, the full audit committee weighed in on the decision of the subcommittee and supported it fully. So, any questions?
As a member of that committee, I was really pleased that we had 2 bids in this economy, because I'd seen other bids out in, for COIC and things when they lost their auditor rather tragically, and the cost variance was so huge. But Moss Adams clearly wanted to do this job, and because the other firm had been with us for 8 years, I do think it's important that you rotate your auditors. And so I was really happy that they came out on top, and they really seem like they want to do the job. So it's nice to know that they are back in the game. They have a lot of experience with governmental accounting, and it's, they're from Eugene, so it's good. And in fact, I think one of their prior major auditors just moved right down the road. He lives in Sister Zone. Unfortunately, he's retired now. I guess we could always ask him to come in and help, right? Who wants to be retired when you can get back to auditing? So it would be so handy for him.
So Dave, when Eide Bailey has been coming to do our audit, the last few years, is that basically a team coming out from Boise every year, or do they have people based in more nearby cities that are coming over here to do that work?
No, I think it was a high point for their staff to come visit Bend, and so I think they rented a small house and occupied it while they were visiting. That was pre-COVID. During COVID, I believe they were pretty much mostly remote, so they did the audit remotely. Our systems are very supportable to doing something remote. They have a lot of detail in the system, so.
I'm just wondering because, that one benefit of this selection is that, Moss Adams is listing an Oregon address, so we could be supporting an Oregon business as we move forward with this, in addition to all the other reasons that you've given for making this selection.
A good note. Thank you.
Well, and this is another instance where our finance department really kind of pairs up with the auditors, providing them the content, having some capacity locally is very valuable. So we want to make sure to keep that in mind as we move forward. Also, that work product is the Consolidated Annual Financial Report, correct? I mean, that's kind of the big document that gets published by this effort. And that is the fun one to be able to read. I mean, if you get into finances, but because we have a published budget, this is what we're going to do with the dollars, and then the previous year's finances fully audited. And I always remember all the 10-year graphs and charts in the back of that document talking about the trends as population grows, solid waste, the cost of doing business, FTE per person in the county, our numbers. It's really just an amazing set of information when it gets published also. So I'm excited about it when I see that Consolidated Annual Financial Report.
In addition to that, Finance actually issues a popular annual financial report that makes it a lot more graphical and usable for the public to read through. So it's on the website. So I'm looking for if you guys have.
I'm happy to move approval and authorization of chair signature of the notice of intent to award contract for external audit services, document number 2022-267 with Moss Adams LLP.
And I will second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you. Have a great day.
No, you too. Yes. Tarek, thank you for joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Good morning. For the record, Tarek Rawlings. I'm an associate planner with the Community Development Department. And before you this morning is consideration of the first reading of 2 ordinances associated with the Central Oregon Irrigation District's request for a plan amendment zone change. This is following the board's deliberations on March 2nd, where you had motioned for an approval adopting the hearings officer's decision, which had recommended approval of that plan amendment zone change request. And so this is both these ordinances, both 2022-001 and 2022-002, incorporate that hearings officer's decision by reference. It includes exhibits related to the different map changes and the text changes that are associated with that request. And I'm here for any kind of questions, I suppose, or any comments you might have right now, but if you didn't have any, or if we were moving to any kind of a motion, I would recommend move to an approval and signature of both those listed ordinances. So I'm available for any questions you might have.
By title only?
Be title only, it's first reading. There's no emergency clause, right?
Correct, yep.
I think we've discussed this proposal in depth in previous meetings. I would just say that I still believe that this is exactly the right kind of property to be considering this rezone on, sitting immediately adjacent to the City of Bend's UGB, and also providing, an opportunity to take a agriculturally zoned parcel that has poor soils and no water rights and has never been farmed in the past, and put it to potentially better use. I know that the application is not to take all the steps to inclusion in the UGB, but my hope will be that this piece of land becomes a prime candidate for inclusion in the next urban growth boundary expansion for the City of Bend.
And I'll just acknowledge that this is the comprehensive plan of Deschutes County amendment for this parcel, so it's proposing to change the zoning, the amendment and the zone change itself. So that's the two parts of what we're passing today. So with that, I'll move first reading of ordinance number 2022-001 and ordinance number 2022-002 by title only.
Second.
Any other discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Now you
And I need to read the title.
read the title.
Okay, I can find 001, but can you find me 002?
Yeah.
What page is it on? Do you have?
Yeah, I haven't pulled it out. Just
Okay. Okay, an ordinance amending Deschutes County Code Title 23, the Deschutes County Comprehensive Plan to change the comprehensive plan map designation for certain property from agricultural to rural residential exception area and prescribing an effective date on the 90th day after the date of adoption. So that is for ordinance number 2022-001.
So it's about halfway through. I know I didn't find it yet. Yeah, I didn't mark it, so.
I was
Deep in there, sorry.
I know it's in here somewhere. Okay, and for the other second ordinance is an ordinance amending Deschutes County Code Title 18, the Deschutes County zoning map to change the zone designation for certain property from exclusive farm use to multiple use agricultural and prescribing an effective date on the 90th date after the date of adoption, and that's ordinance number 2022-002. It's really so much easier without a mask on to read all that. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, I found it. Oh, no,
good.
too late.
Thank you. I know, I went through it. I was going like, where is that other one? It's in here. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, and we'll have another reading, what, in 2 weeks?
Exactly, 2 weeks from today, just on the 13th of April, I'll be back with a second reading, very similar packet upload. I'll try to maybe get you some printed versions of the ordinances, if that might be more helpful next time.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
Thanks very much, Commissioners. Have a good day.
No, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, we now have a very important item, item number 12, which is recognizing Child Abuse Prevention Month. And is Wendy going to be in the room for this? What? Okay.
Maybe we could invite Cara up here to.
Yes, would you like to join us, please? Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for all of the call-outs earlier. Mountain Star is really excited to be in Lapine and to start our work there. So hello, I'm Kara Tachikawa. I'm the Executive Director for Mountain Star Family Relief Nursery. And as you noted earlier, we have sites in Bend and Redmond and soon to come in Lapine. And I need to read my speech for the proclamation because I did not practice enough times. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners, for your continuing recognition of Child Abuse Prevention Month. Your attention to and support of prevention efforts is making a difference in Deschutes County. At last year's proclamation, we encouraged everyone to ask, how are the children? And to consistently keep in mind the goal of increasing the wellness of all children in our communities and lives. We've made progress in this area, both locally and statewide. Excuse me. Organizations and programs that focus on the well-being of children like Mountain Star, Kids Center, CASA, Neighbor Impact, and Healthy Families of the High Desert, we've been able to resume all of our in-person services. Local community partners have stepped in to provide financial support and access to buildings and offices to increase the availability of our family supports. And on a statewide level, legislators have created a path for both more research and more funding for programs to help keep children out of foster care. These are, of course, great steps in the right direction, and we need to keep moving because children are still at risk. The most recent data that we have is from 2020, and it shows that in the Tri-County area, 787 children were confirmed victims of abuse or neglect, and 564 of those children live in Deschutes County. Over the past several years, on average, 18 children out of every 1,000 in the Tri-County region have been confirmed victims of abuse and neglect, and in addition, 406 children in 2020 spent at least one day in foster care. These are all sobering statistics. Multiple studies bear out the fact that experiences in childhood, especially early childhood, are the biggest key to an individual's lifelong development. Several ACEs studies have shown that traumatic early experiences can lead to a variety of adverse outcomes for a person's health, employment, and relationships. The good news begins with studies on resilience, showing that having at least one trusting and supportive relationship with a consistent and caring adult can offset and help overcome the effects of earlier trauma in a child's life. This is great news, but it always leaves me with the question, what can we do to make sure that the traumatic events don't happen in the first place? As we all learned during the pandemic, isolation is difficult, and that difficulty is compounded by lack of access to other resources. At Mountain Star, one of the most consistent stress factors in our clients' lives is lack of a support network. This creates stress from continual isolation, and the families are often facing additional issues such as housing and employment instability, unaffordable child supplies, and the parent's own past traumatic events. This is where we can all take part in the solution. Together, we can create communities of hope in our region. Beyond just social service providers, every person can take part in weaving a network to bolster and uphold children and families. Employers in our region are already looking at wages and benefits in order to attract and retain employees, and we should also place family-centered on that list of items and consider things such as flexible schedules and work-from-home options to accommodate caring for children or other family members. Churches and community groups can use their platforms to recognize that no one has it all together and seek to welcome those who would otherwise stay on the fringes or fall into isolation. On an individual level, each of us can strive towards the belief that everyone is doing the best they can with what they know and have. That belief will gradually free us from judgment and allow us to see ways that we can partner with vulnerable children and families in our lives and around us. As we emerge from the pandemic, we must continue to build on the lessons that have been reinforced over the past 2 years. Trauma can have lasting negative effects. Resilience is built on relationships and can overcome trauma. And by building more resilience throughout our communities, we can prevent future trauma from occurring. My goal for us is to work together to continue to build our entire region into a community of hope. Thank you.
Oh, Cara, thank you so much. I really worry. I think the last 2 years have been really hard on kids, and I'm so glad that you will be going forward in Lapine. Do you have any kind of feedback on how soon you think something positive, you'd be able to actually have kids at the facility? Do you have your timeline?
So we are still striving for this fall.
Okay. Okay. No, that's good.
We've hired a project manager, and we will be, hopefully breaking ground as soon as the land purchase closes. So
great. No, that's.
Well, we moved that forward a little bit today for you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Whatever we can do, so glad that you will be down there, and because families are truly moving to South County.
For sure.
And the more child care and your program that can be there, that's wonderful. So thank you.
I was supposed to be joined by someone from Kids Center, and I'm not sure if they have maybe joined the Zoom already. They might be hopping on at 10 o'clock because that was the time they were planning on.
Oh, there we go.
Can you tell
Thank you.
who we're looking for? Stephanie might be able to find them on Zoom.
Rachel Visser, maybe? Nope, Gabrielle. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. Gabrielle, did you want to join us and make any comments? Yes, some days our timeline is not quite, it's always better.
We're a little ahead, but that's a
miracle.
For you, yep.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
You're ahead. Okay, well, I'm totally just signing on. My apologies. I was not, I didn't hear what.
So Cara was able to introduce and read her statement just now. So we're kind of halfway in the middle of it. So you get to join us and make any comments from Kids Center point of view, and we'll be reading the proclamation following your comments.
Well, wonderful. Well, Kids Center's the Tri-Counties Child Advocacy Center serving Crook, Jefferson, and Deschutes. We've provided over 25 years of prevention, evaluation, and treatment. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Gabrielle Allender, and I'm the Director of Client Programs and Prevention here at Kids Center. We provide 4 key services to families, including evaluation, which includes a medical exam and forensic interview, family advocacy, therapy, and prevention. Kids Center and Mountain Star Family Relief Nursery have partnered together to lead Central Oregon's participation in April's National Child Abuse Prevention Month for many, many years now. And we brought this campaign to the Tri-County area in 2005. Each year, well, I should say, Kara, were you able to share what the Blue Ribbon Campaign is for those that are unaware?
She didn't.
Not yet.
So go ahead.
Okay. So the Blue Ribbon Campaign began in 1989, when Bonnie Finney of Virginia lost her 3-year-old grandson at the hands of her daughter's abusive partner. And at that time, Bonnie tied blue ribbons to her car, which symbolized the blue of her grandson's bruises, and encouraged the community to do so. So since then, it's kind of grown into a national campaign, and Kids Center started participating in 1998. So this year, we're asking all adults to speak up and save a child. And you can do that in many, many different ways. One is truly just be aware and know that this is a pretty significant issue in our community and remains so. In this past year, 2021, 1,576 children and adults were directly served through Kids Center programs. And we completed 345 child abuse evaluations, which was an increase from 2020, where we completed 288. It's important to know that at least 90% of victims who are abused by at least 90% of victims who are abused by somebody that they know. So it's typically a family member or a really close friend, not a stranger. And it's also, I think, really important to know that typically children report their abuse 3 times to adults before an adult reports it to an authority. So that's where we're really asking everyone to really listen and to speak up. Another way to participate is to be educated. We have multiple opportunities, including a safe and sound email campaign, which you can register through the Kids Center website. We've created really 3 weeks worth of virtual prevention tips and guidelines and activities that will be delivered right to your inbox. And these can really be shared with your sphere of influence. Learn how to minimize the opportunity for abuse, recognize the signs of potential abuse, sign up for a Kids Center training, learn the myths, the facts. That all can be done on our website. And talk about child abuse and prevention to children and adults. Talk to family, neighbors, and friends to raise awareness. And visit both Kids Center and Mountain Star's website to read both of our newsletters. Which again kind of discusses various myths and facts, and also lays out some various activities for the month of April. Kids Center is putting on an event in the Tri-County area, one in Jefferson, Crook, and here in Deschutes, called Communities for Kids. And this is an event that really connects families and children with resources that can help support them become strong, thriving families, include various fun games, activities, video booths, and we'll have our prevention materials as well. And lastly, have the courage to report. Oregon statewide hotline is 855-503-SAFE. So let's all make that commitment to come together, be aware, learn, and truly be present for the month of April, especially, and beyond.
Gabrielle, could you repeat that number again?
Yeah, it's
for so people, in case they didn't get it all, because you were just saying that your evaluations went up 20% this from 20 to 21. So that's incredibly significant.
Yeah. Yes, the Oregon statewide hotline is 855-503-SAFE 7233.
Oh, thank you for doing that. That always helps people. Is that still the same number where you can report elder abuse too? So do both of those calls go to that number?
I don't think so. I think this is the child abuse reporting hotline. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Gabrielle and thank Cara for your statements this morning, for the work that you do every day to prevent life-changing trauma to our kids.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, do we have a motion for to read the proclamation then?
We could read it and then move afterwards.
Okay, all right. Do you want to do the first 3 paragraphs?
Sure, I'll start. This is a proclamation before the Board of Commissioners of Deschutes County declaring April 2022 Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas there were over 2,140 reports of child abuse and neglect in Central Oregon last year. Is that the correct number as of today? 2,140.
Yes, those remain the
okay, just making sure. Whereas we all have responsibility as individuals, neighbors, community members, and citizens of Central Oregon to help create healthy, safe, nurturing experiences for children, and whereas safe and healthy childhoods help produce confident and successful adults.
Okay, whereas child abuse and neglect often occur when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and don't know how to cope, and whereas the majority of child abuse and neglect cases stem from situations and conditions that are preventable with the support of an engaged community, and whereas child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure that families have the support and access to services they need to raise their children in a healthy environment. And, Commissioner Chang, go ahead.
Whereas child abuse and neglect not only directly harm children, but the trauma can also increase the likelihood of criminal behavior, substance abuse, health problems such as heart disease and obesity, and poor academic outcomes. And whereas effective prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among agencies, schools, faith communities, philanthropic and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community, let it be resolved that the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2022 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month in Deschutes County. And we urge all citizens to work together to make sure every family has the support they need and deserve to raise their children in a healthy environment.
So I'll move board adoption declaring April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just an acknowledgement, some of the words jump out as support of an engaged community. This is springtime after a couple years of a pandemic and COVID. It's time to get out, just say hi to people, reach out to your neighbors, so not looking for, but just having community support amongst each other. So anybody that might be struggling can have support to not even be falling into situations like this.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Yes, and the chair votes yes, and thank you so much for joining us today. And please, yes, everyone, please protect those that can't protect themselves. It's really important.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and congratulations on the Pine. Yes, looking forward to the fall. Just positive thoughts. It will open in the fall because we truly need it to. So, thank you. Okay, we have item number 13. Is Kathleen?
Good morning, Commissioners. Kathleen Hinman, Human Resources Director, for the record. Today we have before you consideration of a board order to add to recognize Juneteenth as a Deschutes County holiday. So just a little bit of information. Juneteenth has been celebrated since 1866 as the annual holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the United States in 1865. It represents a critical turning point in American history. It's the day that we as a people finally began to live up to one of the greatest principles of this nation, a nation devoted to liberty for all. It has gained renewed interest in the nation as the nation works to mend race relations in America. It serves as a reminder of the freedoms that are yet to be reached by people of color and as opportunity for us to address those inequities that afflict our communities. Following the revival of Juneteenth during the Civil Rights Movement in 1980, Texas became the first state to recognize Juneteenth as an official state holiday. Since then, at least 44 other states and the District of Columbia have followed suit. In June of 2021, Oregon's governor signed a bill making June 19th an official state holiday, and with recognition of the holiday by the federal government at that same time. So on behalf of county leadership, it is with honor that staff recommends consideration of board signature and order number 2022-019, recognizing Juneteenth as a Deschutes County holiday, consistent with section 10.070 of the Deschutes County HR personnel rules.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for bringing this to us in March so that I know last year we didn't have enough time to actually adopt it at that moment in time. So it's good that it's on our docket today. Is there any discussion?
I'd just say that I'm very proud that our county is prepared to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday. We do not, up to now, have an opportunity to formally recognize the end of slavery in the United States. And this is a very important opportunity for us.
So, yeah, an exciting moment, kind of aligning with state and federal efforts here. There still is one country, the United States of America, one flag that we do the pledge at the beginning of our meeting, one Constitution for the United States of America. So, this is a very inclusive statement saying let's not live in the past, but work forwards for a more inclusive and fair community, obviously. So it's exciting to be able to, just align ourselves with the efforts and make sure everybody understands we're on board.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move approval and board signature of order number 2022-019, recognizing Juneteenth as a paid Deschutes County holiday consistent with section 10.070 of the Deschutes County HR personnel rules.
Now second it.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So thank you for timely getting this to us, and I'm happy that we were able to approve it today with unanimous vote.
And just looking at the date, I was thinking, we'll set this up for next fiscal year, but if we did that, it'd be like the week before, so we're acknowledging it for this year, this calendar year.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, let's now go to other items. We can do that now because we have that moment. I guess I could bring up the COVA meeting that Nick and I attended yesterday with Greg Munn and talked about what the travel industry is facing. It's quite interesting. Some things are as busy as last year. Some things are not quite as busy. It was a cross-section, and then we were also talking about the county's relationship with COVA, which is the Central Oregon Veterans Association. So they are now in the process of, they had actually 300 applications for one position for COVA. Did you hear? I don't know if you were on the call at that moment in time, but yes, Julia had 300 applications for this one job. And I said, Julia, any of those extra people, you can send them our way. So
911.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, they were, the community was actually saying that they are seeing a few more job applicants now. So that's good. And it was a good meeting.
Commissioner, I think the Visitors Association. I think you mentioned Veterans Association.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Visitors.
okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, yesterday was the anniversary of the Vietnam War. So yeah. So yes, COVA. Yes.
Yes.
COVA. Anyway, thank you for clarifying that, Nick. Is there anything you wanted to add about the meeting then?
The COVA also talked about establishing a reserve fund policy. We've talked about how important that is as our transient room tax continues to increase, and we're talking about amending our contract with the organization to establish one piece for the base operations and then maybe another piece for additional revenue that exceeds their base operations. So those conversations are ongoing, very positive. And part of that is to make sure that the organization does have an adequate reserve fund policy going forward, just given that we live in a dynamic economy in Central Oregon, and we want to make sure that they sustain their operations through those down periods when we do experience them.
And that's when you'll need the money to spend it so that you can bring, if there is truly a downturn. And I have been talking about a reserve for over a year, so I think it's going to happen now. So this is good. Yeah, I thought it was a positive meeting, and I believe, yes.
They're a sort of a batch of letters of support that are coming in from various directions in the last day or two, and I think Whitney has some of that in hand. Literally things that have come in since Monday. when during our last meeting, that it would be great if we had a chance to consider signing on to.
Sure. Go ahead, Whitney.
Thank you, Commissioner Adair. Yes, staff has a few draft letters of support for board consideration, as well as a few follow-ups on the letters that we discussed on Monday. So I'll go ahead and pass these out and then walk through these requests if that works for the board.
Sure.
Hold on. Need a?
I think I'm okay.
Thank you. Lunch.
Thank you. Or I can send them down, and then you don't have to go running back and forth.
Whitney's working on her 10,000 steps today, I'm sure.
There you go.
I'm just typing quickly.
It's happening in real time. Let me get one for Nick.
I think the one of these that's not connected with congressionally directed spending requests is this letter to the Bureau of Reclamation requesting support for the Deschutes Basin Water Collaborative. This was basically a copy of a letter we submitted last year on behalf of the Deschutes Basin Water Collaborative to the Bureau of Reclamation, essentially just updated with a new date for this year. Is that accurate,
Yes,
Whitney?
that is accurate. And it looks like the request for this letter is the end of the business day today. So just for the board's consideration with that timing.
Yeah.
Okay, regarding the letter for the Sisters Roundabout funding, yesterday morning, I actually ran into the mayor of Sisters, and we had a conversation about it. And, apparently the costing came in at $2 million more than what they were looking at. So that's why they're out searching for more funding.
Yes, and just to kind of follow up there, after the board's conversation on Monday, we were able to coordinate with city staff, and they indicated that they have pursued infrastructure funding for this project. It sounds like they were not successful in their first bid for that funding, but feel that this is, both ODOT and the city feel like this is a great path to pursue funding for this project. So hopefully that helps in terms of a follow-up on discussion from the board on Monday. So we let staff know that we would bring this back for your consideration today, and they are, as the deadline is at the end of this week, if the board is supportive and we move this forward, we'll get that over to them as quick as we can.
Well, after talking with Mayor Pridden, I do believe that yes, I'm happy that we're doing this letter for them.
Yeah, and that was my only question about this was, have they also explored funding opportunities through the infrastructure bill? Because I think it's annoying when there's multiple funding opportunities and you only pursue one. But hearing that they already have applications in for those funds, I'm fully supportive of this letter.
Great.
Okay, Commissioner DeBonne.
So I was just kind of reading in detail the Bureau of Reclamation letter, and you jumped to the Sisters one. So
Sorry.
I'm just trying to.
When I knew I could.
So what's the question? Oh, yeah.
Well, are you? Would it be okay to include your signature on that letter?
For Sisters?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
For the
well,
roundabout.
yeah, okay,
Do you want to read that one?
Well, and so the concept is, should we be asking for multiple paths of dollars? And the answer is going to be yes, because of the overruns of the expected cost, correct?
Right.
So yeah, I'm supportive.
Definitely more. Okay, one down, Whitney.
Great, that is fantastic. So we'll finalize this for board signature and get this submitted. A follow-up, also Monday we discussed a letter of support for the Lapine Community Health Center. The team at the Lapine Community Health Center is still finalizing costs in terms of what their request will be. So once they finalize those numbers, we'll get that letter finalized and to you for signature as well following your discussion on Monday. So just a quick status update since you haven't seen that come through for signature yet. That's why.
Okay, but it will be shortly.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Because
So-
the submission deadline is tomorrow or Friday?
I think it's Friday at 6 p.m., so it will be in the next few days. I don't know if the board would like to talk about the Bureau of Reclamation.
Yes, because that one is
letter
due
next.
today.
Yes, and if there's any questions about that, I'm happy to try and answer them, or Commissioner Chang may be able to as well.
So just for clarity, so this is a letter saying Deschutes County is supportive of the collaborative efforts. Is it asking for money?
From us?
No, from Bureau of Reclamation.
Yes.
So,
And I actually do not know how much.
so it's just we're saying we're a partner, and then just in case you have money, we're ready for it.
I mean,
It's
this
the
is
concept.
I think this is their cooperative watershed management program is an annual program.
Yeah, but we don't know how much, so.
Yeah, I don't.
Just
I
a
don't
positive
know.
statement showing we're all working together.
Yeah. The letter we did last year was on, I think, January 12th or something like that. I had been on the board. I had been sworn in like 8 or 9 days earlier. So since I am the board member who's assigned as the liaison to the Deschutes Basin Water Collaborative, they reached out to me, but I basically just
I'm supportive, yeah.
I'm going on the assumption that we supported it last year when I was brand new and I didn't actually know what this was about, but we would want to support it again.
You know, we haven't seen the rains or the water, and it's a drought conditions. We do have an effort. Everybody's working together best we can right now. So I'm very much in support of you know, getting our name out there and you know, showing support for our collaborative efforts.
So it sounds like it is unanimous support then for this letter, Whitney, that is due today.
I mean, I would just say that within this framework of the Deschutes Basin Water Collaborative is the most, I would say, the most important drought resiliency work that's happening in the basin. You know, we hear a lot from people who are concerned about domestic or urban municipal type water uses, particularly when we're reviewing certain kinds of land use applications or appeals on projects. But the work that's being done to pipe canals, the work that's being done to implement on-farm efficiency, those are the areas where we can save tens of thousands of acre-feet of water per year that can then help to ensure that, you know, farmers with junior water rights, the river, and, you know, and municipal users all have adequate supply to do their thing.
I was communicating with a gentleman up by Smith Rock State Park, or Smith Rock Road, I guess, and he pointed out that you know, part of their system is piped, but part of it isn't. So now they're in a spot where there's tailwaters from some fields going across other fields where they can't control it. So he's got pressurized water on one field, but the neighbor doesn't. And you know, this time of transition is even challenging. You know, as we're doing these improvements or offering these improvements where possible, it just changes, you know, the historical farming practices even. So just something I learned recently.
Isn't COID still 27% flood irrigated? I know it's dropped.
Yeah, but as I say, as some properties are and some aren't, you know, can affect,
But
as I
then
say, flooding.
The other problem is, though, the canals used to have the seepage. So then that was, you know, and the wildlife used to drink out of them. So, you know, there's, you know, you do one thing and then you do something else, and where do they drink? So.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioners. And then the last two letters for your consideration that are tied to congressionally directed spending requests came through from the City of Bend for your consideration. These are tied to two projects, the Ferguson Sewer Project and a land acquisition project. The city will be seeking $2 million in congressionally designated funds to facilitate completion of the sewer project in Southeast Bend. And the affordable housing request that they're planning to submit is for $3 million to acquire a parcel of land for the development of affordable housing in partnership with Housing Works. So these letters are for your consideration, and we do have some background material from city staff should the board have questions about these draft letters of support.
So any request is an okay request. You know, these are ideas. It's good to see the ideas on paper and you know, advocating for them. You know, when it comes down to the national politics of congressionally designated spending, I just kind of scratch my head and say, I don't know where this money's coming from, but that's what our senators are representing. You know, there's been a lot of funding packages coming through from COVID and infrastructure, and now this is other, you know, dollars for specific projects, which is just kind of makes you wonder what the big picture looks like. You know, when you see the big rescue packages, it's our, you know, our next generation's debt. But as I say, I mean, if the senators have ideas how they can get us money, how can you say no?
That's the problem, isn't it? When you see inflation at 10% and you see interest rates are going to be bumped up 6 times this year, and our $30 trillion, that bump in interest rate is going to be so impactful on our nation's debt. So, yeah, truly we need some balance in our world. And I know that Southeast Bend truly needs their sewer system upgrade. So, and a lot of that community, it was the costs were incredibly out of reach.
Well, as I say, I mean, if we have a spreadsheet of community needs, then line items and costs, there's no downside into that, which is kind of this process. We're putting ideas into a portal saying, you know, if we had money for this, this would be the good things we could do with it. So there's no downside in that. As I say, you know, we need businesses, people working, taxes being paid, and you know, slow down on the national debt. But that's the politics of it. That's all.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate that over the course of the 20th century, the federal government incurred so much debt, and you know, got our nation to a point where we're carrying a substantial load, and at the same time, that doesn't mean that strategic and critical infrastructure investments aren't important for our community, and that some of that responsibility isn't with the federal government, which you know, I speak to you know, builders and developers on a regular basis who are concerned about system development charges, and you know, they say, well, you know, if we could just make those system development charges go away, or you could waive them, then we could build a lot more. We could build a lot more housing, and you know, what I say back to them is, well, you know, that's basically the way it was in the you know, 19th and 20th centuries, that you know, the vast majority of the municipal infrastructure that exists in our nation was built with federal funding, not local funding, and it was when that federal funding started to dry up that we needed to start looking at things like system development charges more seriously. So I guess I would just say that good investments in infrastructure are strategically important to make, and are what guarantees or secures or creates opportunity for our future economic growth and development, and that is how we end up paying taxes. So I see these kinds of congressionally designated spending requests as an excellent opportunity to capture federal investment that will help us grow the tax base so that we can catch up on our debt loads for the nation. And I guess the other thing I would say is these two requests from the city of Bend, you know, I've told representatives from the city that I will be happy to send individual letters in support of, regardless of what the you know, what the feeling or sentiment of the board is, the full board is on congressionally directed spending program, the earmarks. So if you're welcome today to join me on these letters, or I'd be happy to just send them as individual letters.
Whitney, just to confirm, you said that the letter of support for the land acquisition is for $3 million, and that's with Housing Works, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And the Ferguson Sewer project, they're asking for $2 million?
Correct.
And would that $2 million complete the project?
Yes, it looks like the $2 million will facilitate completion of the project. The total project cost estimate is $6.5 million.
Okay, all right. I can sign both of those letters if that's the what you're telling me. If they just need, what, a third of it for the one for the sewer, and the other is $3 million?
Correct.
What is that, the total project then? 3?
It says the $3 million would be to acquire the parcel for development, and it doesn't mention additional project cost in this one pager that I'm seeing. I'm also happy to, I'm not seeing additional cost associated with that project listed here.
So I'll move approval of letter of support for City of Bend's Ferguson Sewer Project.
Second.
Further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So do you know what kind of acreage or anything like that? Are there any details that are available?
Yeah, what might be helpful on the land acquisition project, Commissioner, is we can print you this fact sheet. The board could take a look at it over your lunch recess, and we could come back to you with this letter after that, after you've had a chance to read through it. I'm happy to verbally give you the highlights, but it might just be helpful for you to take a glance at this. The board got a little ahead of schedule, so I didn't fully have everything, kind of ran down here quickly, but I'm happy to get this ready for you and come back to you at the end of the day as a follow-up to this one, if that works.
Okay, that would be excellent.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Whitney.
Yep.
Yeah, don't run down the stairs too fast. Okay, I believe we have Christy Bollinger in the room. Christy, do you want to make your presentation?
So we have an opportunity to talk about the RFP
Right.
for Simpson Avenue at this time?
Yes. We were going to do that before lunch.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Christy Bollinger, Deschutes County Property Management. So just a little recap. This past Monday in executive session, staff brought to your board the results of the evaluation and scoring for the Simpson RFP. Just a little recap on that. There was 5 submitted proposals. One of them was disqualified, as we talked about in executive session, leaving 4. At that time, we presented what the top scores were, and direction from the board was to draft a notice of intent to award, which I just handed out to you. So happy to answer any questions you may have at this point.
Oh, Christy, for the record, you might say that Wish Camper, who had originally sent us a letter last July, had pulled out of and didn't submit. I mean, I know you mentioned that the other day.
Yeah, you're correct on that, Commissioner. Derek Wishcamper chose not to proceed with submitting a proposal. Basically, it just didn't align with their strategy and how they, and just determined that it wasn't something that they wanted to pursue.
Thank you.
So yeah, we have scoring results from our review, and we were able to compare notes in executive session previously. So we've been provided information on this topic, and there's multiple applicants proposing some pretty impressive projects here, different amounts, different dollar amounts, total number of units also. Yeah.
I would just say that from my perspective, the county has a responsibility to use these lands for the greatest benefit for the people of Deschutes County. And in my book, those responsibilities break down in 3 ways. First, we have a desperate need for affordable housing in our community for our workforce. Because people who live in Bend or live in Deschutes County, people who work in Bend or people who work in Deschutes County should have the opportunity to live there as well. We also have a responsibility to use the county's resources, in this case, a piece of land, to keep the county on a sound fiscal footing. So there was an interest in getting some amount of return from this property. And the third important responsibility I think that we have is to do everything that we can to maintain or enhance the quality of life for the people in the near vicinity of that property on Simpson. And I will just say that the recommendation or the scoring from our review committee, I think, puts forward a project that does an excellent job of balancing those 3 responsibilities for affordable housing, for sound fiscal use of county resources, and for maintaining the quality of life for our our citizens who live in that neighborhood. So I am very supportive of moving forward with the recommendation from the committee.
And I want to acknowledge that that project that does have the highest scoring, the core housing work project, actually has 30 cottages which will be owned. And so that's 27% of the total number of between the apartments and the cottages. And I just think that's really significant. That's giving people an opportunity to own something. And I think it's great for families. So I felt like they really were incredibly respectful of the trees, the landscaping. They seem to, they have an excellent program in the city of Bend, and I'm really happy that they came out on top.
So yeah, acknowledging Housing Works and Core Community Land Trust as the successful applicant from scoring, and I support that also. It does take, and do different things on the different sections of this. Also, parking and the cottage type living, plus some, I think, 3-story buildings with parking on the other areas. So I'm very sensitive to the community. I want to thank everyone that in the community that got engaged, saw what's being discussed here, what the RFP means for their neighborhood. This property was rezoned from public facilities because it was like the remainder from the landfill parcel many years ago to multifamily in the process of their Bend Urban Growth Boundary and Comprehensive Plan update years ago now. So it's been zoned this for many years, and it's just the time to be able to put it out there on the market. When we did put it on the market, the concept was, well, let's just offer it out there for the current zone. It's all a function of dollars, but design ideas also. So I want to thank the review committee for being so professional in this. And, it's been kind of quiet for the neighborhood also. I know it's frustrating when you see something being proposed. It was that moment where it wasn't really time to go try to have a community meeting as an elected official on this subject, but I'm available after this. So.
And along those lines, there were a number of requests from neighbors of this property for us to pull back the request for proposal and reissue it with more design criteria that would have addressed some of their neighborly concerns about this property. And I specifically just wanted to say that while I appreciate those concerns, number one, I feel like this proposal does a very good job of balancing a whole range of concerns, including maintaining quality of life for the community, and also that it's urgent to move forward with an award of this property now, because if we do not, some of these applicants will miss an opportunity to participate in the state's next funding cycle for affordable housing projects, which they may have to wait another 12 to 18 months to participate in again. And these affordable housing projects are extremely complicated to put together, and we cannot afford to have our affordable housing organizations miss a chance at that one critical piece of their capital stack to make these projects move forward as fast as possible.
And it will be deed restricted?
Correct. Being that it would be designated for affordable housing, it will have one level of deed restriction on there, so it can only be used for that purpose.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, Housing Works is our housing authority in Central Oregon. They have some wonderful projects. They really know how to execute. The construction companies behind them, the design and the architects. So I don't know how much flexibility is here for the community to be able to engage in. But yeah, they're available for what are the facts now that the proposal's been selected. So yeah, as I say, I'm available, and we'll have whatever we need to do to communicate.
Do we need a motion? Yes, let's have a motion.
The motion would be to go ahead and authorize the notice of intent to award to Housing Works Core, and I believe it's Nick's signature?
Yes.
And to authorize county administrator signature.
I'll move authorization of this notice of intent to award and county administrator's signature for this purchase and sale agreement for county-owned property located at 19755 Simpson Avenue.
To Housing Works and Core.
The Housing Works and Core.
Good.
And I'll
Community Land Trust.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Christy, thank you so much for your professionalism, for your team. I know you're extremely busy, and it was wonderful to have, South County Morning Stars going through today, too. So thank you for all that you do.
Absolutely.
And Deborah.
And thank you to all of the participants in the review committee who worked through these proposals and came up with such a strong recommendation for us.
I'll pass that along if they're not listening, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have it posted with an afternoon session. Is there anything else we need to do this morning?
I got a couple other items.
Okay, other items?
Other items, so.
Sure.
Been preparing for our, kind of the Office of Homeless, well, the Office of whatever we're going to call it, so I'm always, the terminology still needs to be worked out, but just preparing for that, as a board, we're going to be in a joint session with City Council of Bend, but, all the cities. I was able to speak with the implementing staff for a Safe at Home effort in Whitehorse, Yukon, up in Canada. And it was just somebody found it and sent a link, and I got motivated. We connected with them and talked to them a little bit. So, because it's a program that's in place, it's been there for a while. I think there's about 30,000 residents and 100-something people, so it's a different scale of what we're dealing with. But a couple years down the road on a very much a elected official, community partnership-led project in the big picture. So I spoke to him just for a few minutes yesterday, and I'm going to talk to him again. So just letting you know, kind of working down that path. And then three other very different topics. So tomorrow is ARPA checks for small business. That's in the morning. A distribution.
10 to 1.
Yep. Distribution time.
Yes. Thank goodness we're finally getting those checks out to our business community that had losses.
Hydroelectric facility tour. I think that we might have all been invited, or if we hadn't, it was just email come through. So that's for tomorrow afternoon for elected officials and probably the water collaborative people, whoever wants to see on that. So I don't know that it's a.
Yes, it's at 1:30, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know that it's a big
There's only one
community
of
thing,
them
but
now?
multiple of us might be there, but just to kind of understand the water season, the capital investment in a facility like that, the payback from electricity that's produced, just kind of the big picture of what's possible there. And then also tomorrow afternoon, investiture of our new judges. So it's going to be exciting to be able to, celebrate our new judges that are in place, working hard, and this will be, I think we'll maybe even have a sheet cake over there, so we'll see what we can do.
I'm going to try to stop at the Energy Trust in Conduit Hydro Tour very quickly before trying to shoehorn in an AOC Federal Land Management Subcommittee meeting before the investiture of the new judge.
I'm in the same spot. Yeah, it's going to be tight.
One other congressionally directed spending requests letter of support item that's just come on the radar screen just this morning is a request for a letter that I'm going to. I told Oregon Department of Forestry at least I would sign on to, but it had no time to prepare a draft or anything like that for the board to consider. But they the State Department of Forestry will be seeking funding for something called an air curtain burner, which is a piece of equipment that allows you to on site burn basically the debris created from defensible space fuels reduction treatments on private properties in a way that is much safer than open pile burning, and B would help prevent a lot of material coming to coming to the landfill during a fire-free type event. So, I've expressed a lot of interest in essentially how do we both encourage more defensible space treatments, but also prepare for the massive volume of biomass that's going to be created by that work. And I'm really excited about this opportunity to get one of these pieces of equipment here in Central Oregon, under the management of the Oregon Department of Forestry, so that, again, we can give people more options for disposal of that material, and also, divert it from the landfill or from, overwhelming our composting system out there. These air burner technologies are really, essentially it's much better than open pile burning, because it's a contained high heat, high efficiency combustion process. So it's much less smoke, much less risk of fire escape, and out the other end, they don't do complete combustion of the material. So out the other end, you get a bunch of a product called biochar, which is actually a really good soil amendment, and which still contains a very large amount of the carbon that was in the wood material that went into the air curtain burner. So it's both, this biochar is basically both a soil amendment and a way to put carbon back in the ground that it will be slowly released over time, but it's essentially a carbon sequestration strategy.
Black Butte Ranch has one, and we were able to go tour it with the solid waste folks last year. So Chad Centola and Tim Shimke have seen that. I was able to see it also. It is kind of a manual process. Drop it in with a bucket or a excavator, and you need to monitor it and man it the whole time. So it's going to be a cost of the staff time doing it. So I just say we got to see it, and it isn't as high throughput as you'd think either. It's like you got this big mountain of stuff, and you got the burner, and you put some stuff in it, and it burns. But then there's still a big mountain, so it's not as high throughput as you want.
Fast, but there's
But I just say I got to experience it.
There's a lot more than one model of this technology. They build them at different scales, and there's trade-offs, because you buy the really, really big one, and the number of landowners that it's useful for probably diminishes. But you buy a more mid-size unit, and it makes it a useful approach or tool for smaller landowners. So I'm leaving all those decisions up to them. Yeah.
I know that's what I've heard. Yes, Whitney, do you have our letter back? Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioners, as a follow-up, this is the fact sheet from the city staff related to the affordable housing congressionally directed spending request. And it looks like, Commissioner Dare, to answer your question related to acreage, that will depend on the property. So there isn't specific acreage information that I'm seeing in this.
Yes.
I'm not in support of signing a letter for this one, but, good luck to them.
I'll be happy to sign a letter individually as needed.
So he's already secured the funding, according to the first line. He announced he has secured federal investments that will support it, so I would sign the letter.
No, in October, the senator announced
He had secured.
the funding that was secured for fiscal year 2022, the year that we're in right now. The congressionally directed spending request that we're talking about is for fiscal year 2023.
So he's going to be asking for more funding then.
The next year's congressionally directed spending requests. Yes. This is a process that's done on an annual basis alongside the annual federal appropriations process.
So Whitney, somebody making $25 an hour, would they qualify for this?
I don't know off the top of my head, Commissioner Dare, but we could certainly get back to you.
Because you know how it's so important for workforce housing. And if this is a range.
I left my calculator upstairs, but if you can punch in 25 times 2,080 hours, we could
Oh, it's like 50,000 a year. I know that. So
that is definitely below 80%
So,
for the city of Bend.
I mean, I was just thinking about salaries and everything, and we have such a hard time with workforce housing. So, we're calling it affordable, but truly it could be workforce in our community. So I would sign the letter.
Okay, great. Staff will finalize this letter and have it upstairs for signature.
Okay. I mean, I know that people that work in our county would love to live here and not have to drive. So I think it's important.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Whitney. Okay, so we will then, can we do anything else now?
Recess till 1 o'clock, you think?
I was wondering, can we do your evaluation now?
Executive session if you choose to, yeah.
Okay, so we need to do an executive session now, and of course I didn't.
Reconvene at 1 o'clock.
Huh?
And then reconvene.
And we'll reconvene for the regular agenda. Oh, he's not coming in. I think he's still in Las Vegas.
I'd throw him a bone.
Not-
for a
His
couple
office
$100.
behind him or not?
And he
Yeah,
looks
we'll
like
see.
a winner.
Oh, you're not in Vegas anymore.
He's got a graphic of his office right behind him.
Well, he did it. He took it with him. We need to reconvene our meeting, our March 30th, 2022 meeting with the Deschutes County Commissioners. And we're looking at item number 14. Chris, I believe you have the floor.
All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Before you is agreement 2022-262, which is grant acceptance of coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds, which will be utilized to construct sewer collection lines beneath the reconstructed roadways in Terrebonne in association with the forthcoming ODOT project. Namely, we're talking about 11th Street, Smith Rock Way, all the side streets that will be reconstructed with that project. This grant comes to us via Representative Bonham's legislative allocation of ARPA funding. So very thoughtful allocation of funding and very timely. But for these funds, we would be faced with an unfortunate situation in which we're reconstructing all these roads in Terrebonne and at the same time trying to facilitate creation of a sanitary district to install a sewer collection system eventually. And in doing so, that we face the likelihood of them having to basically cut up all these roads in relatively near term. And so with the arrival of this funding, we're able to incorporate it into the overall design and plans that ODOT is putting together for the project in Terrebonne. And we'll have a seamless reconstruction of those streets, complete with a dry line collection system that will eventually await connection and pumping out to the City of Redmond Wetlands Complex, as we've discussed. So again, ODOT is working as we speak with our consultant team on getting the design to the individual tax lots that will be ultimately served by the project. And yeah, very, very grateful for this opportunity to take care of it now versus later. So with that, board, any questions?
Did you have a good birthday?
I did, thank you. first time turning 49. So
First
49.
time. First time.
Okay.
next year we'll be the second time.
Yeah, go down. Go to 48 the
answer,
next year.
yep.
So, yes, well, that's great. Well, very sweet.
Chris, who will actually be cutting the checks to the entities who are laying the pipe? Will that be us, or is this money going back to ODOT and being bundled?
So we will be the subrecipient of this funding, and so some of that detail does need to be worked out between Deschutes County and ODOT in the form of an intergovernmental agreement. But how we foresee it right now is that we're the subrecipient of these funds. We are contractually tied to ODOT's project. Their contractor does the work. We submit for reimbursement as that work occurs. And so at this point, it'll most likely be Deschutes County writing checks to ODOT to reimburse them for what they'll be giving the contractor.
Yeah. I mean, with that in mind, I mean, the one thing I would ask is, would it make more sense for the money to just stay inside the state and go directly from, I'm not sure which DAS or wherever the money is at the state, to go directly to ODOT rather than come out to us and then go back to the state?
Yeah, that's a good question. We, as the subrecipient, basically identified in Representative Bonham's identification of the funding, we assumed that we would have a role to play. We didn't explore the opportunity for that to take place. The other, I guess, flip side of that too, Commissioner, is we could have some excess funding here, and such that the county could issue a contract to spend if there were several $100,000 left. We could exhaust the rest of the funding through extension of the dry line elsewhere in the community, and so it gives us access to not just what ODOT will ultimately get, but the entirety of the $1 million. So. I think probably for the purposes of how the state and maybe how the representative would like to see those funds distributed, I believe we have it for the most part figured out. We're giving the state $10 million as well for this project.
Right.
And so, it's probably not a tremendous rework of any intergovernmental agreements or reimbursement process to still make that happen.
Got it. Thank you.
But it'd be great if it could.
Well, without a sewer district, Deschutes County proper is keeping an eye on the focus of infrastructure, which is the sewer system too. So, I mean, nobody else will do that at this time, for that purpose. Sorry, Commissioner.
No, I was just going to, didn't we get like 1.3 million that we get to apply to this? So we're not doing actually the whole, it's a roundabout formula or something. Wasn't there something that came in that was applied to Terrebonne through some federal funding or something? And
this is the representative's allocation was for $1 million for Terrebonne, and he assigned as a part of that the ODOT project, and so within that is the sewer line component. So it's just the 1.0, and of course, board, the county has already invested $100,000 initially for the feasibility study, additional $300,000 to kind of facilitate creation of the sanitary district, the design of this work that we're talking about here, so on and so forth. And then the pledge of an additional $1 million in capacity funded at Redmond's wetland complex to accommodate the effluent the community will generate and need to dispose of and be treated. So it's gradually taking shape. I will add too that as we meet with the Terrebonne Sewer Advisory Group, there's pretty good momentum with regards to getting the petition submitted for, back to the county, to the board for creation of the district. So feel pretty good about how that process is taking place right now.
I want to thank the Vernons again for coming to us in 2019 and believing that we could actually get something accomplished. It's only 22, and it seems like we are going ahead. And also, I want to recognize Representative Bonham and the fact that he actually got a very fair share to Deschutes County. That was really thoughtful of him in his analysis of where he could help us. So I thank him for that.
Bet.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval of grant agreement, move chair approval of, so is it's chair approval or chair signature?
Probably chair signature.
I'll move board approval and chair signature of agreement number 2022-262 to accept coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds to construct advanced wastewater collection system improvements in Terrebonne.
And I will second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, very happily. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just did get a note. The 1.3 I think you were referencing.
Right.
Was from the community block grant program that we will be redirecting to ODOT as a portion of our $10 million contribution. So
yes, that's what I was thinking of.
A whole host of different funding streams coming into this project.
I know. I was just, when you said the 10 million, I was thinking like, oh, but I thought we got that down a bit. So anyway.
Yep.
Yes, great.
Yes.
Oh, gosh, thank you.
So Chris, with those $1.3 million, which funds did we have committed to this project? Do we get to save 1.3 million of to put towards other things at this point?
Yeah, so we're not saving 1.3. What we're doing is we typically receive surface transportation block grant funding from ODOT via the feds. If we are to take that as a county and spend that on a county project, we have to do a fund exchange through ODOT, and they keep 10% of that. Okay. So what we're saving is the 10% of the 1.3, so about $130,000 that will offset the road fund. So basically, which is primarily composed of fuel tax and other state highway fund allocations. So it's not 1.3 savings; it's 10% of that, which is great. We'll achieve that on this project, and it'll allow our fund balance to have a little bit more in it.
$130,000 could buy us a mile or two of paving or something like that.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Yeah. Not as much as it used to. Thank you, Board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for being there. Glad you had your birthday. Okay, item number 15, which is, who are we going to be seeing? Looks like Janice. Kara? Yes. Good afternoon, Janice.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. For the record, I'm Janice Garceau, Director of Behavioral Health for Deschutes County. We are here, and Kara just let me know she got to, oh, she's here. We are here to request approval to apply for Oregon Health Authority Aid and Assist Grant funds. Just so that you understand what this is about, these are funds that historically came to us without the requirement of an application through our county financial assistance awards. And for reasons that are actually hard to fully get our heads around, the OHA decided this year to award these funds, which historically came as a distribution via a grant process. So we're being asked to apply for funds that we've historically received, and those funds are specifically intended to help us address the needs of our aid and assist population. And as you know from previous presentations, this is the group of folks who have been committed either to the hospital or to the community in an effort to restore them to a level of mental health functioning that allows them to aid and assist in their own defense in a criminal proceeding. That was a mouthful. So what you have in front of you is our plan for how we want to apply for funds. The goals and objectives come straight from the contract language, and it's really about increasing the use of community-based restoration services that are frankly mandated to help decrease admissions to the Oregon State Hospital, return people back to the community from the Oregon State Hospital more quickly, and stabilize these individuals in the community while they're awaiting their proceedings. I'm going to pause there and let Kara explain what we're applying for, because the good news of an application is we can ask for what we want. Whether they choose to fund it or not is a different story. So I'll let Kara describe what our application includes.
Hi, Commissioners. Kara Cronin, Program Manager for Behavioral Health. We are going to apply for some FTE. These aren't new FTE. We're covering costs of the services we're already providing with the money OHA has already given us in the past. So we are covering expenses. Some indirects as well are in there, including Behavioral Health Specialist 1, a Behavioral Health Specialist 2, part of a nurse, part of a behavioral health supervisor, and one peer support specialist. We're also going to ask for a little bit of money for client stabilization. These are funds we might use to do barrier removal for, let's say, housing or medication. Yeah, that's what we're going to use the money for.
And we do have contract services in there to purchase shelter beds at the Bethlehem Inn, which has been a really critical way that we've been able to help support this pretty ill, high-risk population in the community, often without good placement options for them outside of shelters.
Kara and Janice, can you unpack a little bit, like give a little bit more insight into the services that the personnel that we just walked through will be delivering to the aid and assist population to you know, help them stay out of the state hospital or help them come home from the state hospital?
Sure, I'm happy to field that. We provide kind of full spectrum services to this group, which is everything from psychiatry, medication management, nursing supports, case management, care coordination with lots of other entities. We support people with peer support. One of the major tasks of this group is legal skills training. So that's part of the requirement, is that we support them in understanding what's happening in court through legal skills training. We also, most of these are community-based services. We do some in clinic, but primarily in the community is where we're serving folks.
Great, thank you.
So in the
And I
big
think
picture,
the other-
oops, sorry.
The other piece of this that's really critical to keep in mind is that services to this population are actually mandated for counties, and then counties usually, in most instances, work very closely with their community mental health programs to provide the statutorily spelled out supports to aid and assist individuals that we have to provide. So it's just another piece to understand about this particular set of services. We actually don't necessarily have a choice about providing them. We certainly have a choice about our strategies and how we use the resources that we have available, but we must support the population, and we're under some obligation through our contract to commit to getting people out of the hospital timely when they're ready to return to the community.
So if this is now an application process to receive funds for services we're mandated to provide, is there any risk that our application, so is this competitive? So, I mean, is there a chance that we will not be successful in getting these funds that for the services we're mandated to provide?
Yes and no. So it is non-competitive. It was offered only to the existing providers, which are mostly community mental health programs. However, we are asking for an amount larger than what was historically provided. There is additional aid and assist revenue that was identified by the legislature. Whether or not we will be awarded the amount we're requesting, that we have to wait and see. It is not enormously larger than what we had been provided previously in this biennium, so we're hopeful. but we may not receive the full award that we're requesting. And the last piece is we have been reassured that in future years, these funds will be ongoing, and I don't know that they will be offered in this way again. I think this is just a point in time phenomenon that I'm not sure I can explain.
Yep, understood. So with revenue like this, you know, so there'll probably be something coming, right? The amount may be not real clear, but it's coming.
Absolutely.
This basically, you know, funds efforts in this area for the year. Is that correct for this group of FTE I'm referring to? So July 1st, 22 to June 30th, 23.
Correct.
So when will we know what they do award us, Janice? Is there a deadline for this application?
The deadline is April 22nd. They've assured us, I think, Janice, that we will have funds by July 1.
And we'll know at that point in time if they do award us our new additional request?
We'll probably know before July 1. That's when they promised actual funds.
Great.
And Janice, didn't some of the state go to the calendar year, but this is staying on our fiscal year?
You're correct. Part of the state did go to a calendar year. I have no idea why this is.
I know. I'm going like, oh my gosh, can't they be, if they're flipping, can't they all be consistent or something? So.
Well, the only constant we have is that it's always changing.
That's true.
So I'm supportive of this. One question is a big audacious goal might be, what if we started aiming towards another 16 beds for behavioral health stability here in Deschutes County? And this is, you know, kind of for Janice and us as a whole group. I know Commissioner Dare has been talking about estate beds at the Deer Ridge, yep. But, and we have a facility here in Deschutes County. So as I say, this is a whole different topic, but it sure would support if we had 16 more beds, acute support beds, you know, not a state hospital, but full support. Janice, how big does that sound?
That actually sounds within the realm of possibilities. So I have spoken with you, I think, in other public meetings, maybe in other settings, about the fact that there are two large amounts of money on the table right now, specifically targeted towards behavioral health housing. One is an Oregon Health Authority request for proposals for up to $100 million statewide. $100 million available. $100 million is a lot of money. And then the other thing that happened in this just most recent legislative session is that the legislature awarded $100 million to come directly to community mental health programs through the contracts we have with the health authority. Now, we have been in meetings for the last 3 weeks that are quite complicated around how does that actually happen? Because as you know, anything that happens between a legislature, a state entity, and local governments gets complicated, but we're working through it. The good news is we will plan in collaboration with our regional partners, meaning Best Care and other providers, and start looking at whether or not an additional 12 to 16 bed residential treatment program that's secure is an option for us. It requires us to have partnership with providers. We have providers that have expressed interest. We need property. We need a facility. There's a lot of steps, and we're hearing that there may be some challenges. And this may be where you as elected officials can be helpful. There may be some challenges in the $100 million that's coming to counties because it's state general fund, and state general fund, as you know, typically has to be either spent or encumbered by the end of the biennium, which is only a year and a couple months away. And when you're talking about purchasing property, renovating a facility, and standing it up and staffing it, a year is not a long time. So lots of challenges, but I think still reason to be very hopeful that we have resources to identify additional secure residential treatment beds for our community. That's our hope. Kara's working on it with me. She's fully immersed, and we're also trying to think about whether or not we can stretch those dollars far enough to include something for youth. Maybe tough to do both, but we will try. Sorry, it was a long answer, but.
Well, not a problem. So I'm showing support for that, and I don't know that we should think of land as the limiting factor. So, I'm thinking undeveloped land. You mentioned redeveloping a building or reconstructing, but maybe it's easier to build. And also the location, as in, we think of Bend as kind of the center of this thing, but I mean, it could be Lapine or Prineville or Madras or Redmond. Because if it's just a secure treatment facility, it could be somewhere other than in the middle. So.
Truly,
yeah, we're hopeful.
Wouldn't be as
Sorry,
expensive.
Commissioner.
I just said it wouldn't be as expensive not to have it in Bend. I mean, when you think of the teams of people that work at Deer Ridge, 70% of the minimum security people there are mentally ill, and that really is, it's something that could be done before 10 years go by, because truly building something just takes so much time. And $100 million, oh my gosh, the numbers we're looking at now for the courthouse, it's huge. $100 million really is, if we're talking about the whole state, applying for that $100 million. So how much does that mean we get? $5 million?
Well, it's the long-term operations too. So it's a very expensive service that we're talking about here.
Well, it's too bad we can't bring the brand-new building from Hermiston down that's sitting empty, because it's a lovely facility. Why is that one sitting empty? It would be great to have, even have kids there, because it is a brand-new place, and it's done and it's ready to go.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm supportive of moving wherever we can forward. So it sounds like we all are. So.
And Janice, to be able to compete for a piece of that $100 million, or maybe $100 million, or the other $100 million, what do we need to do? And I'm wondering whether you have the capacity to pursue these opportunities effectively, or whether there's something we should be doing to provide you with additional help or support so that you can pursue these strategic priorities for the counties.
So the answer is a little complicated. So there was $132 million originally identified for behavioral health housing statewide that comes through a competitive RFP. The first phase of that was a $50,000 apiece grants for planning. We did apply as a region. Molly and Rick Trelevin worked on that. We hired a consultant through our connection with Central Oregon Health Council, and we worked with regional partners, CBOs, other people involved in housing, to develop a regional plan. And the goal of that plan was to assess what are our needs and gaps, what are some of the barriers, to do that through the lens of really thinking about culturally and linguistically appropriate services, because often housing for those populations is even more limited, and develop a comprehensive plan. We did that. It's completed. It's been sent to the state. They have it, and we plan to use that plan to do two things. One is to inform our application when the RFP is available again for the remaining amounts under that $132 million, which is competitive. And then to also help guide our efforts around the $100 million that's coming to us through a formula. We already have a good sense of what that formula is going to be. It's about $3.7 million for Deschutes County. It's an additional $3-ish million for Crook and Jefferson. We are in the process of deciding whether we're going to combine those dollars for a regional effort and what that might look like. So the technical assistance we may really need is if we have identified a partner who's interested in our help investing, finding property, working through the kinks of that, which are considerable. So any county resource that can help with the sort of property, facility, leasing, licensing aspects of that work are going to be enormously helpful to us, but I don't think we're quite there. We actually have our first planning meeting tomorrow with some partners that have expressed interest. So we're getting the ball rolling.
Well, it was timely we started this discussion here then. That's good.
Yeah.
And I mean, the resources that you mentioned, property, facilities, boy, those are some some slammed resources at Deschutes County right now.
They sure are.
But I mean, you know, again, understanding that this is a strategic need for the county, it's helpful, and we can try to plan around that. I mean, there have been some recent discussions about you know, creating management analyst positions within the admin department, and you know, we could look for some of that kinds of expertise, you know, if it made sense to support some of our strategic priorities.
Yeah, I think we have to, you know, the amounts that are coming to us, while they sound enormous, as you all know, when you're actually trying to build a facility or reno a facility, are not that much, and they won't pay for operating costs. So the critical first step for us is to find a partner who's willing and feels that through the ability to bill Medicaid for these kinds of residential services can make it work. So, you know, we're looking for our trusted partners that have been at this for some time, know how to do it, know how to make it work, know how to hire good staff and train them. All of that is part of the picture, and we have some partners with interest. So that's the good news.
On the other side of the story isn't Oregon like last in the nation on this type of actually getting something done? I mean, for mental health care. So I see that. I've seen it on the notices that we are last, and we need to do something, because
in terms of number of beds, or
right. Yeah, like, you know, we just lost the 60 beds in Wilsonville. What did they add? 48 in Junction City. Yeah, the Hermiston facility was never licensed, and it was 16 beds. Yeah, but yeah, overall, we have a lot of, you know, we have serious issues, and but we're last. So we definitely need to get the money allocated and put it together and get it something done, so we have more help available, because our population that could use it is really growing.
Back to our agenda. Oh,
Sorry.
I was going to get the work done because we're in the middle of an agenda item. Yeah, let me do that real quick. So move approval to apply for the OHA aid and assist grant funds.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I want to hear what Janice has
to
say
say I wanted
after
to,
we
but
vote.
I figured I'm holding on to this in my head that we don't.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
So.
One moment.
The chair votes yes.
There we go.
Go ahead, Janice.
Thank you. Thank you for the vote, and thank you for the support for the application. And just reminding you, Kara and I actually are coming back to you this next month, which is just one day around the corner, and presenting to you specifically at your request in a work session on residential treatment housing and the current reality. And by then we should have a little bit more information for you too about our current planning process. So that may be a good opportunity to continue this discussion. And I'm getting a heads up from you that if we have specific needs for resources or help, it might be a good time to tell you what those are. And we're happy to do that.
Yeah, as I say, even if we had a free building, it costs a lot of money to operate. So, you know, understanding both parts of that big world. And but if we can get 16 beds in Deschutes County for residents, we have a huge need.
Well, we have our civil commitment issue, which apparently isn't. And when is Dr. Barry's last day, Janice?
Oh, you're breaking my heart.
No, I mean, breaking your heart. Truly, it's breaking my heart.
His last day is July 1.
July 1. Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
And you know, just so I can continue to keep these moving parts clear in my mind, right now we're talking about the aid and assist population, but the aid and assist population is more likely to get space at the state hospital than people who we're referring for civil commitment from this community. So addressing the aid and assist population actually could potentially relieve some of the pressure on the state hospital so that we could have more people who were referring for civil commitment, maybe have the opportunity to use that resource. Or, I mean, are we just talking about a scale of demand that is so big that we need to really be thinking about, additional state facilities or alternatives?
Well, that's a big question. I think the scale of the problem right now is pretty big. Just alone in our community, the aid and assist population grew by 400%. So it went from us supporting maybe 18 people on a given calendar year to over 50, headed towards 60 now. That's just a significant one. And this is a very intensive population.
By 400% in how long, in what kind of a time frame?
In 3 years, 2.5 years. Yeah. Okay. So, and that's happening. We're just a microcosm of what's happening around the state. I think there's value in wondering if part of what's going on is that because we're unable to get people civilly committed when they need to be, one of the things that can happen is those individuals can end up in situations where they come into contact with law enforcement and they can end up on an aid and assist commitment. And I'm not saying that people who are mentally ill are inclined to commit crimes, but I am saying that if we don't address severe mental illness when it's occurring in our community, and these folks are unhoused and coming into contact with law enforcement, that can exacerbate the aid and assist population. Bottom line, we haven't been able to get someone into the state hospital on a civil commitment in 2.5 years?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. So
3.5.
That's an enormous problem. 3.5 years. So these beds hopefully would be available not just to individuals on aid and assist if we're able to get 16 more beds, but to people that we would have hoped could go to a state hospital and instead can help in our community under civil commitments.
I think Dr. Berry explained to me at one point in time, which was probably way too many, but the Oregon population was a lot less. We had 5,500 people that were in state hospital. And now I believe the number is like around 500. So, and the population has gone up 4 times.
Yeah, the state hospital beds, I don't think we ever had 5,500 state hospital beds, but
but what about Pendleton too? Because Pendleton was part of it.
Many more state beds and we had many fewer state people. And now we've flipped the ratio to about 14 beds for every 100,000. It used to be about 500 beds for every 100,000. So it's just a significant change.
A terrible
in availability. Yeah.
I know. No, I think, at one time I know they had 550 people in Pendleton, just in Pendleton alone. So.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
That's a lot.
It's truly, we need to have you come back as soon as possible and get a plan. So.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Just to go back to the treatment bed facility discussion for a moment. Can you give us a sense of what it looks like? For example, when we were just talking, one of the first things that popped into my mind was that vacant long-term care building in Sisters. That some people were asking about as a shelter, but it was a long-term care facility before. 8 little bedrooms, and to do the kind of residential treatment that we're talking about. Are there things that are very unique about these facilities or buildings? Kind of security or monitoring or other things. Like what does that look like? Because that also helps as we're out and about to look out for reusable buildings.
Yeah, there are a lot of physical plant requirements to be licensed as a secure residential treatment facility. They provide all of the services on site, so from psychiatry to nursing to groups. They're kind of like own treatment program. So the licensing is also tricky. It's only up to 16 beds. I think Commissioner Dare, you talked about this at one of our previous meetings about at over 16 beds, and there's a penalty to the provider in terms of what they can bill for. We have one of these currently operating at Deschutes Recovery Center, which Deschutes County donated that land and partnered with Telecare to stand up our 16-bed current facility. Yeah.
Kara, I actually mentioned it at the behavioral health meeting the other day about doubling that 16. It's a federal number. It's what you get your funding for when I was doing some of my research. And Roger Olson, who's the chair of the group, actually mentioned that he had seen that message was coming elsewhere in the country. Perhaps maybe he mentioned Texas or something. So, where they were asking the federal government, hey, that number needs to be increased. It's quite small.
It's really small. I think it's probably a legacy from the intention of deinstitutionalization, which was to really encourage communities to support people in settings that feel more like community-based settings and not like large institutions. And so they put this cap in place partly as a result of that, as a way to incentivize offerings to remain small and milieu-based and community-based. It definitely presents some barriers. I think the other thing to answer Commissioner Chang's question is if it's what we call an SRTP, and you're going to get all these acronyms when we come talk with you in a few weeks. A secure residential treatment program has specific requirements around being licensed to be permitted to be locked facilities, meaning you are able to keep people on the premises. And for some of the folks that we're talking about, that's an important component of the location. Not all of our residential treatment programs are locked. There are many really great ones that serve a lot of our clients that are not locked, different kind of population, different needs.
And as you might imagine, not every community, neighborhood, et cetera, would be super excited to have this in their neighborhood. So that's a real consideration for location. Absolutely. Is kind of the community response.
Got it. But lockable premises, so, to contain people within a building or within grounds, not necessarily you have to be able to secure people into rooms.
Sometimes.
They are.
Okay.
There is a license for seclusion and restraint. It does not get used.
Very often.
I'm not sure it's been used this year for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you guys remember, I think it was maybe 2.5 months ago or so, there was a naked woman walking around downtown Bend, and some people I know had called 911. And where, Kara, in your expertise, where should that woman been really helped? Because when they called, everyone was told a different story, I believe. And where can someone like that be helped in our community? I mean, is it taking them to the stabilization center? I mean, what is it that can be done?
I think that would be a really great first stop. They really are a clearinghouse. You don't know why someone is in that state. It could be that, they're using drugs and that might clear up and that person might be better in a day or two. So I think the stabilization center is a great first stop. We have lots of resources for people who are willing to engage with us, which is often sometimes the barrier, that sometimes folks don't want our services, and we can't force them to have them. But we do our very best and work exceptionally hard to build relationships with people, so they trust us, so they're willing to come in and receive our supports.
Thank you so much for those. I can tell you love what you do, and you're so compassionate.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much for being there, and so appreciate you and Janice. I feel like we have, some of the the most wonderful people that are heading our program, and I appreciate everything that you guys do in order to, it's a very difficult period of time in what's happening in our beautiful country. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. We'll see you in April sometime.
Okay, great. Thank you.
April.
Thanks so much.
And let's hope we get the full funding, right?
Yeah.
That would be nice. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
are we ready to go then to executive session?